Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing an install of our OA Plus rear leaf spring hanger kit on this OBS, and we want to do an install video for you guys and walk you through the entire process step by step on how to install our kit. It's a super simple, super straightforward process, especially because we utilized as many of the existing bolt hole locations that are already on your frame to make it as easy as possible for you guys. There is very minimal drilling. There will be one new hole that you got to drill. There's a few holes that you got to enlarge, but for the most part, this is going to be an entirely bolt-on deal. There's a couple things we got to talk about before we get to the actual install. Mainly the kit. The kit compromises of three different components. You've got your front hangers, which is what I'm holding. You have your rear shackle hanger and your rear shackle. And everything is super strong, CNC cut, CNC bent, MIG welded. Again, we made these brackets as strong as we possibly make them. Now there's two options that we have for these brackets. We have the 08 through 16 leaf springs, and then we have the 17 plus leaf spring. The only major difference with the leaf springs is going to be your bolt hole size. So yeah, make sure you order the correct brackets for your leaves, because otherwise they won't bolt on. Now this is a kit that you can install as you're doing your 05 plus axle swap, or if you want to keep your OBS axles but upgrade your leaves for a better ride, you can do that. Now there's a few benefits to going to the newer leaf springs, mainly better ride quality. The reason why you want the brackets is because the new 08 plus leaf springs are about 8 inches longer than your OBS leaves. So these brackets will locate your axle in the right spot for the longer leaves. And other than better ride, it also they have better payload capabilities, and again, just overall a better leaf pack. For the best ride possible, you definitely want to go with the newer leaves. 2012 plus ride better. The 2017 plus and all those ride even better. That's what I have on one of my trucks, and they ride great. Again, to start off the install, you obviously want to jack up the rear of your truck. Make sure you secure the front. Use wheel shocks, and again, just be safe. Have proper jack stands for the rear, and again, like I said, we're gonna go ahead and get started by removing the axle in this truck, because again, we are doing an axle swap along with this install. Now, one thing that I will say, it's a lot easier to do this install with the bed off, but I'm gonna show you with the bed on, just so that you can see that it is possible to do it this way. Okay guys, so we've got our shocks and our sway bar disconnected. It's pretty simple. They're all 18 mil nuts and bolts. So you're gonna have your 18 mil down here, and then you have a stud up here for your shock. Again, 18 mil comes right out. So same with your sway bar link at the frame bracket. That's an 18 mil. Another thing that you should consider before you even start doing this is to start pre-soaking your U-bolts, ideally as far in advance as you can, because these things are always a pain to remove. So the sooner and the more often that you soak them in some WD-40, or I use liquid wrench. That's my favorite penetrating oil. And again, like I said, just keep them soaked. If you can, for a couple days before you start this removal on basically all the hardware, you'll be way better off. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get the drive shaft removed. Okay, and to get the drive shaft out, you're gonna need to remove these 4 T45 bolts. And once you get the straps off, a pry bar right here will get the drive shaft right out. Oh, you know what? I need a little cap to do it. Okay guys, so we got the axle pretty much ready to come off the truck. What you just saw me do is remove the brake line, and what I put on the line to keep it from leaking, because if you don't put something on it, it's gonna just keep leaking your brake fluid. So what I found is using these vacuum caps on the brake line usually works really good to keep the brake fluid in the line and not make a mess on your floor or anything like that. So these, I put these on every line that I take off from the axles. So yeah, now that we've got it to this point, we're gonna go ahead, remove the axle. I'm gonna remove it at the leaf springs first and take that out. We're gonna be obviously replacing this with the new 05 Plus axle, specifically an 08 axle, and pulling the leaves, removing all of the rivets holding the hangers on the frame, and at that point we'll be pretty much ready to install our new bracket. And again, I'll show you what bolt holes you need to enlarge, what bolt holes you need to drill, and which ones you can just leave as is and just install your bolts. So let's get right to that. Okay guys, so now with the axle and the leaf springs out of the way, we did take off the leaf springs off camera, but that's a super simple process. It's just 2 bolts. You're gonna need a 24 mil socket and wrench on the front, 21 on the rear, and again, they'll just come out. They are a little bit heavy, so be ready for that. But again, super simple process, just 2 bolts. And you wanna do it at the hanger, you can leave the shackle on the leaf on the rear. So now the next part of the process is definitely the hardest, which is removing the rivets that are holding the hangers in place. There's many ways that you can do it. For me, the best and the easiest is using an air hammer with a chisel bit to remove the head, and then a punch to drive it out. If you don't have access to an air hammer or a compressor, you can use a grinder to cut an X on the head of the rivet, and then use a chisel to cut the head off, and then a punch to drive the rivet out. You can also use a torch to cut them off. There's plenty of ways. Again, I personally like the air hammer, so that's what I'm gonna show you. We're gonna put on our glasses and our earmuffs because it is loud. Okay guys, so now we're to the fun part. We removed the old hangers, the rivets. Now we get to start installing the hangers. There's a couple bolt holes that I want to show you that you're gonna have to enlarge. Again, like I said, there's no new holes that you got to drill other than just one, and that's for the driver's side for the parking brake. So let me show you that real quick. Okay, so right now we're under the driver's side, and I want to show you basically what all this is. So if you see, we've got 3 holes here and 3 here. Those were the old ones holding the old hanger in place. Again, like I said, we got to move it 8 inches forward. So we're going to use these 3 bolts, and then we're also going to use that one, that one, that one. And on the bottom, there's going to be another rivet right here that we got to remove to use that hole. This little bolt, this is, I guess, aftermarket or custom. So we're going to remove this. This is for a ground or something they're using. So we're just going to attach it to this other bolt right there. And then this pin just comes out. Just use a 5-pound hammer sledge and beat it out, and it's going to come right out. We're going to be using that one. Now these holes, sometimes the hardware we use will go right into it. Sometimes you got to ream it out just a little bit to be able to use it. So we're going to be testing that out real quick, and if I got to make them bigger, I'll go ahead and make them bigger. This one for sure needs to be drilled out or reamed out to 1/2 inch. So we're going to be doing that. Now on the back side, you will have to enlarge all of these holes to 9/16, which is the hardware size that we use on these ones. We went a little bit bigger than half because there's only 4 bolts here holding it, and we want to be able to, again, make it as strong as we can. So we'll go ahead, rim these 4 out to 9/16. Now this is my favorite way to make holes larger with the reamer instead of a drill bit. We use this Milwaukee drill, and then I actually use the clutch on this. I use the highest setting that I can on this. Just because whenever you're drilling out a hole, you know, these things tend to twist your wrist. And the trick to using it with the clutch is that I don't really put any pressure on the drill. I kind of just let itself work in. That way it's not constantly hitting the clutch and it can actually go through. So I'll try and demonstrate that for you guys here in a little bit. Now, the only other thing that you got to keep in mind, especially on the driver's side, is that you have this fuel tank right there in the way. So as you can see, I have my drill bit marked to the exact, you know, size that it needs to be. That way I don't go any deeper than I have to and risk drilling into the fuel tank. So definitely keep that in mind whenever you're doing this with the whatever, even if you're using just a regular drill bit, you want to be sure that you don't go too far and puncture your fuel tank. Or on the driver's side, I mean, there's all kinds of lines, there's the fuel tanks, everything that you got to watch out for. So keep that in mind. Okay, so what I'm doing right now with my other hand back here is making sure that none of the fuel lines and wiring harnesses and everything that goes through the inside of this frame rail are going to be on the way of our reamer. And like I said, I already have it marked right there to make sure that it doesn't go too deep and puncture the fuel tank. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead, make these 3 holes just big enough to fit this 1/2-inch bolt. Same with that one. Remove this pin and we'll be good to go. And I'll show you a couple of things that you need to know about the actual hanger that's going to go on here. Okay guys, so now that we have the frame all nice and prepped for this bracket, I want to point out these things, you can't mix them up side to side. The driver's side isn't going to fit on the passenger side and vice versa. But I do want to point out that the driver's side should have these 2 additional holes on these side plates, and that's so that your e-brake cables can run through them. So, and then we also have this extra hole right here that we are gonna have to drill this one out. Again, this is the only hole that we gotta drill on the frame. So what I'm gonna do is install this thing on the frame, mark that hole so that I can drill it out, and then we'll finally be able to install this thing permanently. So Okay guys, so now for the e-brake, there's a couple things you got to keep in mind. As you can see, we have both our cables coming from each wheel completely stripped of all the little brackets, and then these things are usually connected together. We remove that. That way we can have both cables individually set up. We are going to keep this bracket that the OBS comes with. The kit comes with this bracket that you're going to use. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that you're going to want to leave this bolt out for last. You're going to want to run your lines through the bracket, through these holes that we provided, install them on this smaller bracket, and then bolt everything together, install that bolt, and torque everything. Alrighty guys, so this is the last bracket we're going to install on the frame. It's the rear shackle hanger. This is one that you got to watch out for and make sure that you are putting the correct one on the right side, because the driver's side will bolt onto the passenger side and vice versa. But it's pretty easy to tell them apart. As you can see, the actual part of the hanger that the shackle bolts onto is not centered in on the bolt pattern. You want it to be offset towards the rear, towards the tailgate of the truck. It's obviously the driver's side, so it's going to sit like this, offset to the rear. Again, you don't want to put it this way, offset to the front on the driver's side, because it'll really throw off your shackle angle. You want it to be looking like this. Now it is, again, the squeeze to get all these bolts in, but should be doable, hopefully. Okay guys, so it can be a little bit difficult getting some of these nuts on the bolts in. And by the way, on the rear hangers, you really want to put your bolts going into the frame the way they are, so the head of the bolt on the outside. Just because you can have some clearance issues with the shackle, with the leaf spring 2 shackle bolt up here. But it can be difficult to install the nuts on there. If the bed's still on, is using a wrench with tape holding the nut like we have it set up right now. So what we're gonna do is, you first want to try and get your washer in. That's pretty doable. And then once you have a washer in, you want to go ahead and kind of try and match your bolt to your nut over here. There we go. And again, that's the easiest way that I found to do this. Now if you want, because you're already holding it, you can go ahead and tighten it and torque it. Also, you really want to use the open end side of the wrench, so you can easily take it back out once you're done. Just like that. Because if you use your box end, it might get stuck on there, so use the open end side so you can just pull it out. Okay guys, so we've got all the brackets in the truck. We've got the bolts installed and torqued. I guess a couple notes on the bolts and the torque specs, because I get this asked a lot. All the 1/2-inch bolts on the front hangers, they're torqued at 90 foot-pounds. The 7/16 bolt on the bottom of the frame rail, those are torqued at 60 foot-pounds. The 9/16 bolts on the rear hangers, those are torqued at 130 foot-pounds. So yeah, just some quick torque specs. We are going to be working on a instruction sheet to go along with this video, and those torque specs will be listed on that sheet. Another thing that I like doing after I torque every single bolt is I like marking them with Revlock, and I'll show you how this works. It's really handy. So this is essentially just a little paint marker, but it leaves a much nicer line that you can see. And you basically just want to do a little line like that. And that's gonna be a nice visual to make sure that everything's really nice and tight. Obviously the only spots that are kind of hard to get to are these ones next to the fuel tanks, but whatever bolt you can use this on, I would highly recommend it. And again, it's a Revlock really cool product, and they have it in many different colors. So it's a great addition if you want to, you know, make sure that everything's nice and tight. And again, whenever you're doing any maintenance, oil changes or whatnot, or you're under the truck, it's always a good idea to, you know, get under there and check all the ones that you've marked to make sure that nothing has come loose. And we do recommend that after about 500 miles, you go through and retorque everything, and then after that, again, every oil change or every time you're under the truck, just take a look, make sure that everything's still nice and tight. Okay, so now it's time to finally put on our leaf springs, and I personally always like starting with the front one. You want to install it on this middle one. That's where we designed it. If for whatever reason you gotta adjust your axle forward or back, that's why you have these extra 2 holes. But you should be good on this front one. Now, what I like to do is put the leaf spring on, put the bolt through the first hole, through the leaf, but not on the last hole. That'll be towards the end. Now, after that, what I like to do is put the shackle should already be on the leaf. Don't really have a side like left to right, but you do want to install them with this bigger plate facing towards the rear, and the smaller plate is going to be facing towards the leaf. And if you do want to, you know, put them side to side, the circ fitting is offset, so you can put the circ fitting towards the outside of the frame. That way, it's a little bit easier to grease these. But other than that, they don't really have a side. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead, like I said, put on the leaf on the front, on the rear, and then I'll kind of show you once everything is done. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the leaf on the hanger. And we have the bolt going through the first plate, but not all the way through to the second plate. Again, that's so we can still move it and place it on the rear hanger. Okay guys, and as you can see, we have the leaves fully installed on this, as well as the rest of the axle, which is just a reverse process of taking it off. A couple of things, we also sell blocks just in case you guys need to add a little bit more lift to your swap. Now, don't forget to torque all of your hardware, and as you can see, we have the top bolt with the head facing in towards the frame, and the nut and the rest of the bolts facing out. Again, we do this because of clearance issues. We don't want none of this stuff touching back here, so we have the heads of the bolts on the bracket facing outwards, and then this bolt also going this way. That is the install. We've got our e-brake set up on this thing, and everything's looking really good. Now again, guys, you can find the rear kit, the front kit on our website, blowingdiesel.com. If you guys have any questions, you can email us, blowingdiesel@gmail.com. You can call us. You can DM us. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. And again, guys, we really appreciate your support. If you have any questions, you can also leave them down in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. And as always, don't forget to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and we'll see you for the next one.